You're welcome along to the yard of Willie McCreery's up at the Curragh this morning. We're going to be joined not only by Willie, we're going to be joined by big racing fan Liam Sheedy, who has obviously just stepped down from the Tipperary job, having had such great success over the years with the Tipperary hurlers. We're going to talk about Longines Irish Champions Weekend, Willie having had a winner the first renewal with Freshness in 2014, the nexus between the two sports, and what racing can learn from hurling and vice versa. Liam, you actually know the Curragh from your training days, from your early tip training days, and this is an early morning visit to the Curragh, but it's nowhere near as early as you brought the tip lads one time, by all accounts.
No, yeah, Tony Bracken was working in the Curragh at the time, himself and Pat Herbert, so we brought the lads up on a Friday evening. They didn't know where they were coming, so we pulled them into the Curragh camp. And
blindfolded them like.
Oh yeah, well, they were certainly caught a little bit off guard, but with a fantastic 2 days. But I think it's all part of the preparation. I suppose when you go into the Curragh, like Tony, it's fairly intensive. They had them up in the middle of the night. You know, a lot of the work they did really. You know, you're trying to push them to their limits, so that they can go to extremes in terms of their preparation. But it's a big part of our starting point. If you asked me to know where that team in 2008 came from, I would say it came from the first visit we had to the Curragh. I still actually look back in the video that I have of it, and it's incredible footage 12 or 13 years on.
And Willie, you've a similar experience to Mick O'Dwyer era.
Yeah, so Mick trained us in the Curragh all his time. He loved the Curragh. We actually just trained 100 yards out that way. You probably can't see it in the fog, but that was our main training for the All-Ireland final in '98. We ran the poles and we used to do runs around the Curragh. We'd start off the bottom of the Old Vic and go up around the Curragh. It was a 7-mile run, and we did that every Sunday. We did a lot of pain out the Curragh.
A lot of pain
and everyone says it's nice and level, but it's Miko found a hill. The Curragh is synonymous. Anyone around the world has heard of the Curragh Plains. You know, it's an outwash plain. It's a glacial outwash plain. It drains like nowhere else. And they're the horses going out behind us, and they're all happy, and they love the Curragh because they can get all their work done here. We can go within 5 miles of here. We can have sand gallops, wood chip gallops, grass gallops like nowhere else in the world. You know, so great facilities for them all, and they're all quite happy. And it's a good open space. Horses, you know, have 360 vision and big ears, and you know, nothing can come at them suddenly because it's a big open expanse to the Curragh, and they love it, you know.
The first Longines Irish Champions Weekend, it's 7 years ago now, and I think it was celebrated at the time. Billy Lee very emotional coming into the winners' enclosure afterwards. I don't know if you were racing that day, Lee.
I wasn't, no.
Faisalana winning the Matron Stakes, Coolmore Matron Stakes, and it's so difficult for a Group 1 to come by you. Did you appreciate it at the time, and have you kind of, I suppose, appreciated it since?
Oh God, look at it. We were very lucky to get the mare, you know. Her previous run, she'd actually been third in the Morris de Geest, which is a Group 1 race. So for a mare, she'd stepped up the ladder, and the ultimate was to get her to win a Group 1. And so Billy rode her with that aim in mind, just to give her every chance to win it, because we'd been placed, and it was like, just get over the line, and he did it. He gave her a super cool ride. Just ice cold, just got up 100 yards from the line to win a half length, you know. Oh, fantastic.
And you keep going back to try and win Group 1s, and you went back to tip then after winning the All-Ireland, and it's, I don't know, the bug is just to do it again, I suppose.
Yeah, but look, you know, I think, you know, when you're involved in you know, a high-powered operation, it's great to be, you know, you're trying to get the best out of what you're working with. And look, you know, as I said, I was very fortunate to get a chance to work with some great players back between 2008 2010. Stepped away and then got a chance to come back in again in 19. And I suppose it's like the bug, whether it's the racing bug or the hurling bug. Like, you know, it's a really good adrenaline from it. It's a fantastic place to be, and like when you see players performing to their potential, and obviously if you get up to the steps of the Hogan stand, like it's. You know, that's our Longines weekend. Like that's what we drive for, and it's fantastic when it goes well. I couldn't
help but think of a parallel between Limerick Hurlers and Aidan O'Brien this morning. That if you're the new Tipperary manager, or you're whoever you're managing Cork, you're managing Galway, we have to match their standards here. And when you look at Limerick, who might be the best hurling team of all time, you might be dealing with the best trainer of all time. And to win top races, what do? You
compete. You have to compete, and that's what you're trying to aim for. It's very simple. They're the target you have. So it's actually easier, because if they're all if you play with bad players, you get bad. you get worse at your whatever game you are.
Yeah.
You're trying to get your athletes to get up to that standard, and if you can get 8 of them up, and 10 of them up, and 12 of them up, then you have a chance. We're racehorses here, and we're trying to do the same. I'm trying to get my team up to his standard, and if you have 1 or 2 up to his standard, you're doing very well. If you can build on that every year, you're doing very well, and that's what every trainer in Ireland is trying to do, is get to his standards.
Insinuendo then, who obviously did her on the line the last day, she could go for the Moyglare Jules Blandford Stakes, which would obviously bring her back to the Curragh.
Yeah, on Champions Weekend, that's what we're thinking anyway. With a view to going out foreign again at the end of the year as well, but that'll be our target now on Champions Weekend.
And if you were more confident of having a winner Longines Irish Champions Weekend or getting Liam Sheedy to take a leg in a horse this morning, how would you weigh it up?
I'd be more confident getting the winner of Champions Weekend. I heard he's that tight. He found the plaster, he cut himself.
Back in the day when you used to train teams to win All Irelands before Limerick came along, there's definitely a science to peaking. You can't peak in April if you're hurling, and there's probably parallels with racing as well, I think, in that regard.
Well, definitely as a player, like, you have to have hunger and appetite going out onto the pitch, and if you overcook it, it's not going to win well. I remember actually in 19, before the Munster final, I was reffing the match, and next thing I heard one of the boys say, "Slow down the puck out," and I says, we could be in a bit of bother here, because the Munster Championship was 4 matches in a row, and then you were straight into a Munster final. So it was really intensive 5 or 6 week period. So you have to have the hunger and the appetite, because if you're overcooked, you need a full tank going out onto the pitch, and freshness is a key requirement, I guess.
And that, it's kind of similar maybe in hurling. If you might want to win in racing, you might want to win a Munster Championship, but ultimately you want to win All Ireland. So I guess you're trying to get your horses to peak around this time of year for a weekend like the Longines Irish Champions Weekend.
Of course, yeah. I mean, with the prize money, the prestige of the Longines Weekend, it's unbelievable, and that is all Ireland. You know what I mean? For the flat horses, definitely, and you have to try and peak for that. And I mean, going back to Liam there in Kildare, I think we peaked for our Ireland semi-final. And I learned a lot from that.
More that she met Galway in the final, that she couldn't.
Johnny, you mightn't get off this farm and keep that up, right? So no, but I think we did peak.
Genuinely, yeah.
Yeah, I think we genuinely peaked because we were playing Kerry in the semi-final. I think Miko thought Kerry were the team to beat, and we peaked for that. And then we tried to get fitter than 100%, and I don't think you can get fitter than 100%. I think you can tweak things to stay at 100%, but I don't think you can get actually fitter. And a few lads got injuries, and I think that was our downfall more so than Galway. I think Galway were lucky.
Honestly, some of the worst performances we've had has been where we might have just pushed it a little bit too far. So there's you really got to know that you got to be hitting the mileage, and actually with all the technology you have now from a hurling perspective, like, you can see it in the numbers. You know what I mean? So we know the numbers that we'd expect to hit quarter on quarter, and you can just see the complete trail if you've overcooked it. So it's a learning. I think maybe there has been times where, but as you said, it's all about the All Ireland final. Really spot on, and we're trying to get, I suppose, anywhere to get an inch. And the big thing for us, and I'd love to hear what it's like for racing, but the big thing for us is going into, you might be training to an empty stadium, but getting up into an 80,000 stadium on All Ireland final day. And I actually taped the Kerry and Dublin football match. I got somebody in to tape the game, and then when I come back to Thurles, all the houses outside were saying, "Geez, there's a massive crowd in Thurles tonight." But I actually had the sound in for the Dublin and Kerry match, and for 15 minutes they can't hear themselves, but it's actually to prepare them for what comes in Croke Park. So, because I suppose when horses are training here and they're on the gallops this morning, they're on their own, generally it's a bit different when you get to racing weekend.
Well, you're spot on, because in the last year and a half with COVID, there's been nobody racing. So the 2-year-olds, for example, first time out, are going to an empty parade ring, and there's no noise, and it's lovely and quiet, and they're basically like they're at home. Whereas Longines Weekend or any weekend before that was busy people talking, yapping, kids running around the place, and horses get spooked.
Yeah.
So you have to try and prepare them for that as well. And we often take them away to a race meet, but we wouldn't have obviously the crowds. But once the speakers go on, sometimes horses go mad, and they'd be playing music in between races. And you'd often ask trainers to turn the music down around the parade ring. Yeah, so it's exactly the same.
There's one obvious parallel between the two sports at the moment in terms of trying to marry data and like just your eye for things, and that I guess every player now, you more or less know from your stats how much that player has run, and it's something in racing, Willie, that it hasn't necessarily totally taken off in terms of GPS when they're in their training and their weight and all that. Like, do you think it's something that will become a bigger deal, or?
Well, we weigh them. We weigh them every week. Keep a good eye on their weight, and we weigh them after, prior, and post racing just to see what they've lost. It's always very interesting.
Well, say in the morning when they're working now, do you have data on the speed they're going, or is that more like intuition?
It's more intuition, and the lads know, and we're doing the same thing every day, so it's
the jockey's feel or whatever.
And I would love now personally to have the clocks in every race. I think it's great for young fellas to learn how to ride races too, and to see the speed they're doing mid race. Do you know what I mean? I think in England it's done, and I think we should be able to step up to that mark now.
As well as that, these are individuals. Like, they're not.
Yeah.
Sport would be boring if it was artificial intelligence. These are machines. Like, so.
Yeah.
You'd have to deal with hurlers different ways. What motivates one over the other.
Yeah, I think I was caught in a piece of footage there. So I was putting the arm around one lad, but I was giving the other fella a little bit of a thump in the chest. Because, as you said, some players react differently, and you're trying to get the best out of and if that's the arm around the shoulders, what's required, that's what you do. And if a fella needs a little bit of a call out to say, come on, there's much more there. So, but look, these players are just mad to play at the top of their game, and when they're there, it's a great place to live and operate.
Are you? Can you relate to that?
Oh, definitely.
Some horses just.
Of course, yeah.
Need motivation.
Yeah, and they need to be coaxed, and and they need to be encouraged. You know what I mean? Like most horses don't know where all horses don't know where the winning line is. And a jockey's asking them to go faster. Like, you're asking a horse to go into the pain barrier, which is past where your players are going.
Yeah.
I mean, Aidan O'Brien was quoted. His horse, the great horse he won 6 Group 1s from, but he went into the red zone more than any other horse he's ever had. Which is the red zone, which is the pain barrier. And that's what you're asking a horse to do every time he races. But you also have to have him that fit that he can go into that pain barrier without a string not breaking or something, that he's able to do that physically. Do you know what I mean? Mentally, some of them won't ever go into it, and they'll win a race off 80% because they just won't go to that other level. But the top horses do go to that level more often.
That is the thing, isn't it? Because, like, ability, and I think all young players should know this, ability gets you so far. And like a lot of even soccer players went to England who didn't necessarily have the ability, but they made it because they really put in the effort, training, and also mentality.
Yeah, I think the mind probably gives up way quicker than the body, and if you get people that are strong-minded, and as Willie said, we'll just keep going and going and going. Like, we found ourselves a man down in 19 against Wexford, 14 men, in a game where the ball moves extremely quickly. We were 5, 6, 7 points down and managed to turn it around and get a victory. So that is there, and I think sometimes it comes from the strangest of corners at the strangest of times, and obviously, and then you get momentum, and obviously in our sport momentum is everything, and once you have a bit of momentum, then everything starts to flow. But I think having that strong mind is really important. As we have to get them into the red zone. As a player, you have to be in the red zone if you're going to be competitive.
You've obviously you've stepped down from the Tipperary job this time, but like, the urge for returning to the top level of your sport, it probably never really leaves you, does it?
No, look, it's like a bug. It's whatever really, like, the adrenaline flow you get and the enjoyment you get from being around top class players and really good players that want to just operate to the top of the level is a really exciting place to be. But it's very, very time consuming, but hugely enjoyable. I wouldn't take a minute back in the 3 years. Every aspect for the preparation and the training camps and just getting teams ready to go out and play big matches. And look, some days it rolls with you. You got to roll with the punches as well. Some days it doesn't work out. But overall, it's a hugely enjoyable experience.
What was the comparison owning a winner with Dennis Hogan compared to winning a big hurling game?
Look,
slightly different. But.
It is, yeah. But I mean, isn't it? Like, it's a bit of adrenaline. You know what I mean? I mean, it's great. It's a great buzz. Look, as I said, I think sport plays a big part in my life, and it's a great part of Irish life in my view. There's a lot that we can be proud of here. It's part of our heritage, and I think horse racing and GA are two very, very big things that that go really well and are a big part of our identity here in Ireland. So as I said, I love a day at the races, but I suppose best of all is a day in the sideline. There's nothing beats a day in the sideline, 80,000 people in Croke Park and everything going your way.
And I think what strikes me of morning like this is obviously it's a beautiful, beautiful setting at the Curragh. It's a national treasure, really, the place itself, but it's, for me, it's the bond between the work rider and the horse that you see going into the stable, and they know each other like they're best friends almost.
Yeah, I couldn't get over it. I mean, obviously we seen him walk around inside first, and then I went up with Willie up to the gallops. But even to see the way Willie had the interaction with the jockeys coming off and they having their words and saying, yeah, really good workout this morning. So as you said, it's you know, when you're into sport, I could stand on the gallops there all morning, because you know it's a great place to be if you're into the sport. And as I said, I think we're very fortunate at the moment. We've got some top class trainers, we got top class jockeys. You know, look at what Rachel Blackmore is achieving. I mean, like the consumption that we get from having people like Rachel Blackmore and Barry Geraghty and Ruby and all the others before her.
Amazing.
I think it is really amazing. It is. So I think it's in a really good place.
And the hardest job as a trainer is to convince an owner to get involved in a horse, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, look, at some of them some of these lads from down the country just be looking for vouchers after. You know what I mean?
The story continues, anyway.
The story continues, yeah, for sure.